Kirby. It's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Before we start, I just want everyone to kind of land where we are. So we're going to just shake it off. Shake all of the week's crazy. If you know me, know how my week's been. Whatever the day has brought you. And then I just want you to give yourself some deep, like broad squeeze hugs. Nice. And then we're going to just take one deep breath together and then we'll start. Good. I love the little head shakes, nods. I love it. So, why are we here today? Today, we get to have an awareness so that we can start making our choices consciously towards our ultimate goals and our sustainable growth. So, when we bring awareness, then we get to choose differently to go down whatever path that we want to go. And oftentimes, people assume that they're just one strategy away from the next level, but there's one truth that actually goes overlooked way too often. And today, I'm going to challenge your current beliefs. We'll look at ways that we can show up so that we can choose differently and ultimately get different results. There we go. So before we start, I just want to see, who are you today? And you can drop this in the chat or you can just write it down for yourself. I don't care either way. And I just want you to tell me a couple I am statements. Mine today are that I'm a wife, a mom, I'm flowing, I'm capable, and grateful. And there's literally no right or wrong answer. So just take a minute and who is showing up today? Nice. Nikki's creative. Anyone else want to share? No. Oh, Denise is grateful. I love that. This is one of my favorite things to do because, nice, there we go. I love it. This is one of my favorite things to do because it's a great reminder of not only who you are, but where you've come from, what you've gone through, and where are you actually headed. Sorry, my thing's like not clicking. All right, so how many of you feel like you've done literally everything and you still feel stuck? You've read all the books, we've signed up for all the programs, you've tried every calendar or organization tool on the market, and you may or may not have a team. And after all of those things, you know what it takes to get to whatever your ultimate goal is. And yet you're still wondering, why haven't you seen the consistent growth that you anticipated? How many of you have seen that? You can just nod your heads. Yeah, absolutely. So, because of all of those things and the fact that you're here today, I know that you probably know the hustle culture, you know different strategies, and you know how to execute. And I bet most of you know at some degree that you know how to scale because you're here today. Yet something keeps pulling you back, and you keep seeing that overwhelm, and the strategies that you have and the hustle that you have just keeps leading to that same overwhelm and exhaustion. And you might be asking yourself, why on earth do I keep doing this day and day? Or when am I just going to give up? And I want to know what you call that cycle. So if you'll drop that in the chat for me, I would appreciate that. Some people call it a hamster wheel. Bree calls it a burnout. Some call it a boom and bust. Sometimes it's a roller coaster, a yo-yo. I call it out. Yeah, that's awesome. And yet it's typically assumed that we're just one strategy away and that we need more hustle, right? Like, honestly, if we could just do more every day, then it'll happen. And just like many entrepreneurs, I didn't see these patterns either. And that's why I'm here today. So I'm Kirby, and I am passionate about helping entrepreneurs and small business owners reclaim their time, profit, and leadership authority through system regulation, alignment, and execution. It was about this time in 2023. I had just had our third child, our son, and who was sweet then, ornery now. And it was sadly the first maternity leave that I actually didn't work during my leave. And this will be the first time that I ever realized the power of the mind. So, the first two, I worked at Farm Credit. I was a lender, and it was during renewal season. So, I worked with farmers and ranchers. They were not busy, from end of harvest to planting, so October to April. And when I had my daughters, September and October, it was right in the middle of renewal season. And so I took 2 weeks off. I worked from home the rest. I didn't know any different as a new mom. And so when I had Tate, then I was locked out of the system completely because I was at a commercial bank. And that's when I learned really, again, like the power of the mind. For 2.5 months, I told myself that if I went back to work at the bank, that it would literally kill me. I didn't realize how stressed I was working at the bank or just the things that I was missing out with the kids and all of that. So I did what we do. I went back to work. Within 3 weeks, I had double mastitis. I had my appendix ruptured, and I was septic, and I was in the hospital for 3 days. So the end of 23, it was always the plan. I was going to leave the bank. And we actually ended up relocating. And so I was 10 months postpartum with now 3 kids at home. My marriage was pretty much at the brink of like basic survival. And I knew that there had to be something more. I knew that there was, something out there that would give me the space and the time freedom and all the things that I wanted. So I knew it was time to bet on myself. And in 10 months, we got situated, we saved our marriage, and I built my business to $10,000 months. I hired 2 assistants, and I leaned back and I thought, passive income, right? It'll just run itself. I've delegated the task, it'll just do it. And from the outside, things looked really successful. And some of you might think that's probably pretty impressive, 10 months. But on the inside, I was the classic boom and bust. There was confusion. I had no idea what I was doing. I was always stressed out, maybe more than I was even at the bank. And the worst of all was that I still thought I had to do everything alone. And I had 2 team members, but I was still trying to carry the weight of my business. So I kept thinking it was my strategies, it was my systems, my team. I just needed different people. I needed all of these things. And as I continued through the year, it became very clear what the actual problem was. And what I didn't know, or we don't know what we don't know. And just when I was about to throw in the towel because I was done, I realized it was an internal program. It was something running under the strategies, under my effort, under my planning, and it was an identity that I literally didn't know existed. And because we don't know what we don't know, and the unconscious mind takes the path of least resistance, with every experience, your unconscious mind starts creating its own patterns and ultimately leads to your truest inner beliefs. And that's around your decisions, your capacity, your leadership, which drives ultimately your end results. And when I say internal programming or limiting beliefs or unconscious patterns, these aren't the things that you're thinking about all day long, like your to-do list and the tasks. It's the automatic behaviors that we do without questioning because they're normal. So my kids knock something over. How do I naturally react? Whatever the program is in behind there. So my story was, as much as I wanted that growth and the team and everything in between, I didn't believe at the time at an unconscious level that I was worthy or capable of what I had dreamt of building. And my unconscious mind was trying to literally protect me. And it protected me by pulling back when things started to get real. And I was so close to what I thought I wanted my business to be. And that's because in our modeling years, so there's 3 different stages There's modeling, or there's imprinting, modeling, and then I can't remember the third one, but irrelevant in this moment. And most of your internal beliefs happen in the imprinting phase between 0 and 7. And then we start modeling what we saw because those are the first experiences we had. And during that time in my imprinting and modeling years, I watched my dad build a business and things looked really good. And then that fast, we lost everything. And to me, I thought it was overnight. Obviously, there were things going on behind the scenes that I didn't know. And so that's what I thought business looked like. It was that you scaled really fast, things were good, boom, you lose everything overnight. So my patterns were to pull back and protect myself. So let's look at some of the other patterns that I see. The classic, I'm not ready yet. This could look like you're building momentum, but then you stop to tweak just a few more things. You delay until you have XYZ. You keep refining and never release, or you wait for clarity that only comes after action. How many of you have lived in the almost? You can just raise your hand if you want. Yeah, right? Let me tell you a secret. It's not a strategy. It's just protection. Another one I see is that once you hit X, that you'll finally feel safe, worthy, successful, fill in the blank. And this may look like being fixated on a revenue number, a client count, a milestone, and you might get super close to that goal and you either quit just before you get there, or when you hit the goal, it doesn't feel what you thought it would feel. You don't feel successful. You don't feel like, oh, I can breathe now. I have the money. And the reality is the numbers never actually the issue. And the most common one I see is if I don't do it, it won't be done right. So this looks like delegation, which Bree will touch on, and or it looks like delegating but micromanaging, and or redoing work instead of just training them because it's faster if I just do it, right? Or you feel resentful because you're never able to actually let go. Some people call this high standards, and the reality is it's a decision that you have control of the situation, only disguised. Another one is if I slow down, something bad will happen. And this might look like a packed calendar with little real progress, constantly tweaking things, organizing, planning. Again, you rarely sit with a decision and you may feel productive, but you're not fully fulfilled. And busy is often how we avoid doing the things that may be hard, yet are the ones that are actually going to move that needle. And it's just another way to check the box because I got a lot of things done, right? So I'm successful, but you're not actually doing anything to move your needle. Another one is asking for help means I'm failing. And that could be downplaying your exhaustion or your overwhelm, avoiding help so that you don't look like you're behind or not capable, believing that if you ask for support, it's a sign of weakness. And the sneaky one is when you ask for support, you don't actually listen to what they're saying. And this may be driven from a belief of not being capable, competent. Sometimes it's self-worth. Could be a comparison to others of why can they do it, but I can't. And however, we don't know what we don't know. And we're literally meant to help each other and support each other in business. That independence helped you survive. It's not going to help you scale. So if you want to drop in the chat or just think to yourself, which one of those patterns is showing up for you most often right now? 4. Yeah. 2, 4. Yeah, it happens to all of us. We're not alone in business. We're all having the same struggles, and a lot of times it's just not talked about. And those patterns didn't just come from anywhere. The reality is how we do the little things is how we do the big things. So it's where are we hesitating, over explaining, overworking? What are we avoiding? What do you self-sabotage without maybe even realizing it? And I want to share a couple stories here. So, a few months ago, I was having some pretty bad health issues the beginning of February, and I continued to show up for networking events, my client meetings, some one-to-ones. Mind you, I canceled a lot and I kept the bare minimums that I could. And I was being really hard on myself in that I wasn't doing enough. I didn't have 5 one-to-ones this week, so my business is failing. Those types of thoughts. And I was telling my business coach this, and she stopped me dead in my tracks and said, "Do you see those as a win?" And I said, "No, of course not. Like, I'm not doing the things that I said I was going to do, right?" And she told me and helped me realize that that was an old pattern that was coming in, the perfectionism, that I had to do more, that I had to do all of these things. And that specific pattern for me is tied to, if I'm not doing anything, then I'm not worthy of a business and that I'm not enough. And so that pattern, even when you work on it, it will still show up and you get to respond to it and not react to those patterns. And so just having somebody bring that to the conscious forefront helped me understand that it, it's going to be okay. And so you might already be connecting the dots that all the patterns we see, or don't see for that matter, are usually driven by a decision in a time that we weren't even consciously aware. And they were designed for that one thing, to protect us, because that's what the unconscious mind is there for. However, now these patterns are costing you your capacity, your clarity, and your growth in business. So, for example, if I say I'm a business owner and my values are safety and security, and in my modeling gears, which we already know, I saw somebody lose literally everything, my unconscious mind goes right to that it has to protect me from that next level of business. So for me, it showed up as micromanaging and that I had to do this pattern by myself. If I didn't do it, if I didn't do all the hustle by myself, I would never have the business that I could control. Another example of this outside of business was somebody that I've worked with had taken her daughter to an ice cream shop, and she bought ice cream for herself. She had asked her daughter, "What do you want?" And her daughter didn't answer. So she proceeded to check out, whatever. The daughter's rightfully so upset, right? Like, she didn't get her ice cream she wanted. And that little moment, even though it wasn't traumatic, created a pattern for the daughter that she needed to speak up even when it wasn't necessary, or if she had nothing to say. And another example of this is a power partner. When she was in the first grade, she had a teacher tell her that she wasn't smart enough. She is a financial lender now, and she created a self-sabotaging pattern from that one comment in first grade that she didn't even know was driving her life now. And so when same thing, a little bit as mine, is like, she would bring on all these loans. She was helping all these people in the underserved communities, and she never saw that as a win because she didn't think she was smart enough. She wasn't smart enough to go after her ideal client or whoever that may be and look like for her because of one comment in her imprinting years. So now we know that our beliefs come from experiences, right? They also come from our values at our truest, deepest core. One way to find this is you can just like write down everything that's important to you in context. It has to be in context. So whether it's business, personal, whatever, and you can just write them down until you have literally nothing else in there. And you kind of start looping back to the same things. And then you can go in and rank them. That will give you the truest, like, internal values. And so based on those and the fact that the unconscious mind literally goes to the path of least resistance, we get to show up in two different ways. We're either away from motivated or towards motivated. So, an away from motivated gets you away from perceived danger, and towards gets you closer to expansion. There's no right or wrong answer, and it will vary depending on context or situation or whatever. It's just how you're programmed. And so, an away from motivated might look like some people might be away from motivated from a terrible situation. We can use bills as an example. If they have all these bills, they have no money, they're going to work till they get the money, and then they're going to probably let off. They'll go back to not having money. The bills are due, they feel that pressure. For some others, an away from motivated might be hearing like the word quick fix, and that could be for anyone. On the flip side, towards motivated, that same quick fix could also open the eyes for somebody else and create expansion for their viewpoints. Or a towards motivated person might be the typical you set a goal, you have the steps, you get the reward. As easy as that. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just how we're programmed. And you get to use that for information. And our unconscious mind chooses familiarity because that's its job. You can't override what the unconscious mind believes to be true. We can't out strategize it. We can't out hustle it. There's not enough SOPs in the world. So if you believe that success has to be hard or that you have to do XYZ, exactly like somebody else, like a lot of coaches and consultants and other people out there will tell you, then the reality is it may never work for you. And so you're left spinning your wheels and wondering, why is it working for them and not for me? The good news is that we get to change that together. And that is because your unconscious mind is always listening. And this is the part that changed literally everything for me, is that your unconscious mind is running 90% of your decisions. Your conscious mind thinks it's running the show, but it's really your unconscious mind. And because it's always listening, it's working faster than your conscious mind. And once it sees the blind spot or the things that you didn't know, then they consciously come together, your conscious and your unconscious mind, and it starts rewiring faster. So you get to shift those beliefs because now you're aware of whatever it was, and we get to shift the identities and your internal rules. And some of those old rules may be that success is hard, that if you slow down, that you fail, that you have to do all the things. And my absolute favorite one to shift is you can't let other people down. Because I can guarantee you, you're not letting anyone else down. The only person you're letting down is yourself. So, what's important to remember is that everyone's reality is different. Your experiences, beliefs, perspectives, knowledge, everything that you have inside of you is different from the next person. So, Lindsay, yours is different than Mary's, Beth's from Lori, Hillary from Sierra, Nikki, Yvette, everyone. All of our experiences are different. So, together, we get to find what you're willing to do on a consistent basis. And I know this word is far overused, but you have to find what's authentically you. And you start by defining what success means. What does it look like? What does it feel like? How do you know that you actually have success? Anyone want to share, like, maybe a little bit of what success looks like to them? You don't have to. But Nikki's is different than Sierra's again. Suzanne's is time freedom, family first, money, right? That's all different. So when you know what it looks like, what it feels like, how to get there, or when you know that you actually have it, maybe for me, it's looking at my bank account and like, oh my God, I finally did it. Then that's when you get to start putting steps in place to move the needle that work for you and not be stuck in a box of you have to do X, you have to do Y, because that doesn't work for everyone. And you get to start implementing and working towards what actually drives you. And so I'm going to leave you with my favorite quote from Stacey O'Byrne. And it is that it's important to remember that the only people we get to compare ourselves to is the person you were yesterday and the person you want to be tomorrow. So thank you so much for joining. I have a free gift. You can download my calendar audit if you'd like, and then those are ways you can stay connected.
Yay! That was so good. Thank you, Kirby.
Yes, let me unshare. I need
Anybody
to.
have any questions for Kirby before we move on to Brianne? All right. Well, Miss Brianne,
Okay,
it's all yours.
let's do it. I seriously am so pumped about today in general, just because Denise, like Denise said, getting to come at the same question, but in a little bit of a different way is so awesome. And Kirby like set the bar for everything I'm about to say. So thank you, Kirby, because I'm just gonna ride your wave. So I am going to share my screen and move everybody out of the way. Okay. Oh, that is not my beginning slide. Go back. There we go. All right. So, like Kirby said, we are here to talk about how to unbottleneck our business and how to really live and do business authentically to what we want to do, need to do. And so, what I'm going to do is bring it into a little bit more of the practicality side of things on how we can do that. Yes, we're going to talk delegation, but I'm also going to give you a little bit of freedom in this as well. So I'm really excited. My name's Brianne Price. I am, like I said, the owner of Mills and Mae Services. Fun fact, Mills and Mae are my kids' middle names. So that's where that comes from. And my high overview of what I do is I help US-based virtual assistants get connected with small business owners and solopreneurs all over the nation. I am located here in Denver, Colorado, but I really work with lots of different areas and lots of different people. So I'm super passionate about working with small businesses and making small business not quite so scary and trying to help take some things off of our plates that we all do so often. So, um, what I love too that Kirby just shared is her calendar audit. So, maybe Kirby, you can drop that in the chat because it will help what we're about to talk about. Um, and that is handing things off without letting go. And what actual true delegation looks like without losing control of your business, literally like Kirby said. So, um, in oh wait, now I want to. Okay, I don't know if I can see the chat. I don't know how to do that. I'm new to this. Oh, here we go. I can see it. Okay. Um, so what I want to hear from you guys right now is anyone else feeling buried in their business? Raise of hands, put a thumbs up in the chat. Are you feeling a little bit like you're drowning? Because that's how often I hear businesses. Yes. That's how we talk about it. We're like, we're doing all the things. I think most of it's moving the needle, but I'm not really sure. So, what a lot of times happens with business owners is that we start working a lot in our business, which is needed, especially when we're getting a business off the ground. But that's where you're handling every task, email, decision by yourself. You wear multiple hats. Does anyone else wear multiple hats in the room? So we're working a lot in our business. And when we're starting out, that makes a lot of sense. But at some point, we need to start working more on our business rather than in our business. My favorite thing to talk about, though, with working on our business is that just as Kirby said, we get to work on our business in a way that feels authentic, in a way that feels sustainable for us. So that's going to look different for every single person in this room. So when I say working on it, a lot of people will immediately go to, I need to 3x my income or 10x the amount of clients I'm meeting with or whatever that looks like. But if that's not realistic, one, if that's not realistic, and two, if that's not within the realm of what you want the business to look like, it's gonna fail. So, when I say working on the business, and we're going to talk about this here in a second too, I really want you to think about what you want that to look like, whether it's scaling your strategy, how deep relationships you have, what your revenue goals are, where do you want the growth to really happen? So being really thoughtful about that is super important. And then I love the title that we gave this workshop because the bottleneck isn't, like Kirby said, isn't your systems or your team. It's everything that you're running, and it's coming through you. And there's no possible way to grow it because you're only one person, and that's okay. And we have limitations, and that's a good thing. So, um, I had already planned this, but anyone else, just like Kirby said, it's just faster to do it myself. I get that a ton. I'll actually fill you in. I am currently onboarding. So the way that I operate is I am a matchmaker for VAs. So I really just do the matches. But I finally hired my own VA because I needed the help. Yeah, Kirby. Um, so I finally hired my own VA and I'm walking through this process right now and the training is heavy on the front end. But it's so much worth it, or it's so worth it. One, mental capacity. I don't have to think about as much anymore. And two, like as these systems continue to grow with the VA, it is getting a lot easier to start to think about, yeah, like what type of relationships am I building? Where is my revenue growth? Things like that. So when we think about delegation, a lot of us think about execution control. So that's the being so micromanaging everything and being in the middle of every step, every tool. And that's where you're the bottleneck. But a new way to look at it is quality assurance. So it's not just throwing in the towel and being like, I don't know, whatever happens, it'll be fine. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that quality still matters and it's still going to be the top of mind. But once we define an outcome, then we can measure the results. And the results is what matters. So, with the VA that I'm working with, I am giving processes and procedures, but I'm also stating very clearly this is what we need to get done. So we have a goal in mind, and that's what we're working towards. There is amount of trust, which is hard. I'll share that my word of the year last year was open-handed, and that is a terrifying word of the year. I don't recommend it, but it did bring a lot of growth because it was a process. I would say in meetings and literally open-handed in these meetings and be like, okay, what's going to happen? I'm not going to control this situation. I'm going to let it happen. And it did bring a lot of goodness to my business. So, um, the other way to think about it, and I've heard it both ways, but 70 to 80%, so I have the 80% rule in here. If somebody else can do what you need to do at 80% of what you need or what like you would do, then it's time to hand it off. So, if you're yeah, your time is too valuable to be spending it on tasks that don't require you. And that's a really hard pill to swallow, especially when we're small business owners and this is a baby for us. We have worked really hard from the ground up. But yes, Mary Gall says it the best. Done is better than perfect. So, okay, so how do we do it? Uh, what we're gonna do actually, so I'm also a former teacher, um, and I like hands-on things. So everyone, if you can find a paper or like a scratch situation or your iPad, I don't know, whatever, get a paper. Um, I'm old school, so that's what I got. But we're gonna fold it into quarters. So fold it in half and then fold it in half again. And I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to do this. So you have 4 quadrants, yeah? Yay. Okay. What we're looking at is what's called the Eisenhower matrix. It's like one of my all-time favorite things that I found. And it's going to help us figure out what is urgent and important. So if you look up here at this top left corner, urgent and important are things that you just got to do. Like you as the business owner or you as the whatever in charge, you got to do them. It's client calls, it's decisions that only you can make, it's working on your business. So whatever that looks like for you, those are going to be the things that you list up in this top quarter. The other things, they're not urgent, but they're still important. So they still do require you to do, but it's going to take some strategy and planning and relationship building to get it done. So those are things that we're going to schedule. Mary Gall's awesome at this and has like CEO days. Um, ask her later. But like those are the things that like on a specific day you can just knock out. Bookkeeping, it could be expense tracking, um, planning out your next program, whatever, but it's not urgent. It's not a day-to-day thing. So schedule that, literally put it on your calendar. The other one down in the bottom left is urgent but not important. So this is where you get to delegate. And obviously, I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. Getting a VA, even for 10 hours a month, so that's a couple hours a week, is like gold. And that can be inbox management, scheduling, social posting, data entry, and that delegation piece is actually going to lend itself to what Denise is about to talk about with automating things as well. So it can be delegating to a person. It could be even delegating outside of your business. So bringing in other teammates that can do marketing better than you can. Or it can be automating things just like Denise is going to talk about. Okay. So we're going to write those down. The other one that I love is in this bottom corner, and there are things that are not urgent and not important. And you get to delete them. And that's where the freedom comes in. So there are actually a lot of tasks, and I'm sure you've experienced this, that we have been doing since our business started that no longer serves our business, but we continue to do it. Or there are things that somebody told us about that were like, yes, your business is successful. I want my business to be successful. I'm now going to do this. And it's not serving your business and it's not moving the needle and it's a time waster. So I'm going to give you just a couple minutes. And I would love for you to take some time and write even just like 2 things in each quadrant. So that this is like really practical for you, super hands-on. So I'm gonna set my timer. You have 2 minutes. I would play music, but Zoom cut us off from that, so guess not. Um, and I would love for you to take inventory, kind of like a little audit of your business. And if you have any questions, you can also drop them in the chat. Okay, like 30 more seconds. Okay, go ahead and wrap up the last thought that you had. Um, this is actually something that I do often in my business, because taking inventory and auditing our business is super important. And just making sure that things are aligned with where I'm heading. Seasons change. I'm a mom of two, so my seasons change a lot, quickly. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever season you're in, there is, yeah, it's so good to just go back and look at where you're at. So, um, okay. Now, how do you delegate? So we talked about how delegation can be, to a person, and it can be automating or even just, um, bringing other experts. But this part is delegating to a person. So that's what we're going to look at. Uh, Again, I'll plug VAs, because that's what I do. But what you're gonna need to do when you're delegating it, I like to talk about it like building a delegation machine. So the 80% rule is super, super helpful in, okay, I can open hand, I can let it go, I can ask for help. But then when it comes to the actual, like, how do you delegate? Um, you're building a machine. And so building a machine is going to take a little bit of time up front, but in the long run saves you time, saves you money, all the things. So when you're building the machine, the first thing that you need is a clear expectation statement. So this is not the, like, I mean, it has some to do with like documented processes, obviously, but a lot of what this is the results. Like, what results, what outcomes do you need from the virtual assistant? The second thing that you need is a system to communicate. So pick one tool. There's a whole lot of them, and they're so shiny and exciting, and we can download way too many of them. So pick one that really works for you. Actually, my CRM is a task manager because that works for what I do, and it works for my brain. So that's how I communicate with my people and keep everything organized. So whatever that looks like, Slack, Asana, Monday.com, go high level, your CRM, like literally whatever. But pick a tool, so that you're organized with what you're doing. You're also organized with what the other people are doing, and you can see the progress of where you're at with those clear expectations. And then again, following that up with the defined outcome. So it really comes down to the results. What are the results that you need? Do you need follow-up for whoever you're working with, clients? Do you need reach outs? Are you in need of social media posting? What does done look like? And what I love, this little part, there is a difference between delegating and just reassigning your stress. I'll let that sink in. So for me, delegating is really something that's going to move the needle. It's something that's important. It's something that is vital for my business. Reassigning my stress is not helpful for me, and it's not helpful for a VA. Because when I just reassign my stress and say, I don't know, I can't do this anymore, I just need someone to do it for me, I'm still stressed. Now I'm putting it on them to take over what I haven't even clearly defined for them. And then they're feeling the stress of that as well. So delegating really does take more thoughtfulness than some of us like to admit, and that's okay. Um, okay, but how do we do this? You don't have to figure out who to hire. That's what I do. So, shameless plug for Mills and Mae. These are the 4 steps that I take every business owner through. I get to understand your needs. I really understand the deeper needs of what you're asking for, not just the, I don't know, hands are up and I'm overwhelmed, we figure out exactly what you need, what type of assistant you need. And then I help you find the candidates. So I have 20 virtual assistants within my pool um, that I help to connect with business owners. I help it facilitate those interviews to make sure you meet the right person. And then I help establish the partnership. So that's everything from contracts and compensation and a 90-day trial period with those VAs. So really just making sure that more often than not, it's not just the tasks that need to get done, it's actually the person and the characteristics of your VA. So I get to do all of those things for lots of different business owners across the nation in a variety of different industries. So if you've been a bottleneck for too long in your business, I would love for you to first of all pick one task from today's exercise. So from your paper, pick just one, and you're going to commit to handing it off or deleting it. Start small. One task changes everything. And then I love talking with business owners. So if you have any questions, you want to brainstorm things, run things by somebody else, feel free to scan the QR code and we can set up a free initial consultation. That's also my contact information. So really, truly, I'm here for you. I'm excited. I'm cheering you on. And I'm grateful that you're here today. So thanks for having me.
Okay, anybody have questions for Miss Brianne? That was so good. Thank you. No question. All right, you guys are making me sorry to you. Oh,
I do
Nikki's got
have
a
one
question.
question if that's
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yes.
Do you help or how would you suggest helping people who maybe need that assistance kind of fine tuning what it is exactly they're delegating? Like what would you suggest to someone who's just unclear?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the initial consultations really are for. So I work with business owners all day, every day. And that's my favorite thing to do is to really listen. I like when you word vomit all the things. And then I listen to, yeah, I listen to kind of what are the deeper things that you're asking for. And then we create a really clear plan. I always have business owners start small. So even couple tasks a month. And then we work to build on that. But like I said, anything from 10 hours a month to 30 hours a week of support. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. And it sounds
Yeah,
like you
very
work
cool. Mhm.
ongoing with these business owners too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. I do offer the support in a different way. But yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Brianne before we move on? All right, you guys. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. And those presentations were so good. And it feeds into now I'm thinking other things I need to talk about. And if I could find my other screen, that would be great. And this, and now I'm just talking to myself. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going to talk today about how AI removes you from the work without actually removing you. I need to find these pictures so I can keep track of everything. Okay, so who am I? So of course my name is Denise. I'm an AI systems consultant, but I have just a tad over 25 years of experience working in business operations, training, and sales. Training is my favorite. I'm also a former teacher. For the last 4 years, I've been building automated sales, marketing, and onboarding systems. I've helped nearly 100 businesses in my time, and I did not intend to be a tech person. What I intended to do was help business owners, and it turns out tech is a great way to do that. So when I started my business and I picked the name Sproutware, I did that on purpose because I'm looking for tech, the where part is Sproutware that will help businesses grow. So I'm going to tie in nicely with what Kirby and Brianne talked about, and specifically talking about delegating to people and versus delegating to AI, because it really is still delegating. And it took me a long time to realize this, but delegating is a skill. Some of us are good at it. Some of us are not so good at it. I pretend to be good at it. I'm still learning. But delegating to people and AI, very similar. You want to set those clear expectations. You want to be able, you want to use a consistent system. I love that about the communication. Right now, there's so many AI things out there. Just pick one to learn on. Once you know the basics, then you can move over to other systems, right? And then defining what done looks like. So having that clear idea of where you're trying to go makes all the difference. So it's the same principle, just different tools, but both will help make you less of a bottleneck. So before we go too far, because we're talking about AI and automations in here too, I want to know how you feel about AI. Now, you don't have to use these emojis, whatever emojis you want to use, but I'm always curious because AI's here, it's not going anywhere. And so for sometimes I felt like AI wasn't actually helping me at all. It's like I felt like I spent a lot of time on it, but then when I actually looked at what I was getting done, was anything really getting done? So it's super helpful to, have an idea how you guys are feeling. So I'll keep in here. I lost some chat on you. Okay, good. Lots of excited, all three. Yeah, I have a mix of all three. I have some concerns. But I'm very, very excited about what it can do, especially most of my clients are what I call micro businesses. See, I don't know if you guys know this, but small businesses considered anything under 500 employees. And I don't know about you, but most of the business owners I know have a couple of employees, or maybe 10 employees or 20. My husband's business that he works for, they've grown to 30, and it's taken him 20 something years. So that is a little bit different, right? So I'm super excited to see what AI can do for us. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So this is what I want you to remember. You're the human, AI is the amplifier. The AI, we're not using AI to replace you in any way, shape, and or form. It's an amplifier. And I think this goes for employees as well. So one of the things I really started thinking about when I was thinking about AI was I still want to hire people. I still want to work with people. And the thing is an employee that is well trained and has AI, it just makes them more efficient. It makes them more effective. And so I want us to think about how the AI really is an amplifier for the humans. So the three things we're going to talk about today, because again, I could talk about this for hours and hours. We're going to talk about using AI before conversations, between conversations, and then to help you show up consistently. I hear that word consistently, consistent a lot. People want to be consistent. So what does this look like when we're talking about before conversations? I want you to think about the last time you jumped on a call with someone new. How much time did you spend? Were you scrambling to remember who they were, where you met them, or what you talked about, or why you were actually going to be on that call? I will admit I have done that, and I have all the tabs open and a LinkedIn pulled up, trying to look like I had it together before the call actually started, right? So that is a very typical experience. But now I can walk in prepared and I'm better and I can ask better questions. So let me show you what I have AI doing now. So now I'm not outsourcing the relationship. I'm outsourcing the prep. AI handles the prep and I handle the relationship. So I have my AI set up that will do a pre-call research brief on the person that I'm meeting with. And I don't know if you've had this experience. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I do a lot of one-to-ones. And when you do one-to-ones on Zoom, it's different than when you do them in real life. And it's really easy to forget. I can picture the first person, but I can't quite put the name together. By doing this research beforehand, I have such a fuller picture of who that person is. And I have that context. And so, can I tell you, it so helps you connect with that person. And I'm going to say sorry to Jeff, but my perimenopause brain needs help with the memory. And this has just made it so much better. So now I have business contacts. I remember that she's a solo entrepreneur that's been in business for 3 years and works with service-based businesses. And the last conversation was in March, and I know she's going to be hiring a VA. Oh, now I know I can send her to Brianne. So before I'd even met with her, like I just have I'm better set up to do the connection. So using AI to prepare us so that we can actually have these meaningful conversations before I ever even get on the Zoom call. So remember, you're the human, AI is the amplifier. Now, between conversations is a whole nother topic. The follow-up gap is where most businesses are losing revenue. I'm going to say that again. The follow-up gap is where most businesses lose revenue. So when I do an audit of a business to decide what do they need in their systems, one of the first things I ask about is follow-up. And 9 out of 10 I talk to, if they do even one follow-up, that's good. But most of them are not. 9 out of 10 are not doing anything, much less doing it consistently. And this is what happens, right? You have a great call, you're super excited about this potential customer, and then here's the gap. A client needs something. A kid calls or is sick. Life happens. The next thing you know, it's 2 weeks later, and you're asking, I should reach out. Or then you're thinking, oh, it's too late. It's been too long. I should have reached out. I didn't reach out. I was talking to a client recently that had this conversation, but she's a client now. This has happened before. She was a client of mine. She's like, I just talked to this guy not long ago and realized I hadn't followed up with him in 6 months and I lost the deal. And that was a $48,000 contract because she didn't follow up. So she has lost revenue. It had nothing to do with her skills or her ability as a business owner. It's just life. We get busy. We have so much to do in our day to day. So AI can help you close that gap because within minutes after a call, I can have a draft or follow up in my hands and ready to go. So between calls, AI keeps things moving. This one on the left was mine before. It's the follow up is still, that task is still sitting there 14 days later, 9 days later. And you mean to, but that website needs a little tweak or any number of other things that are less uncomfortable than being rejected if you reach out. So now I have my AI will draft those emails. Now listen to me, draft it. It is not sending it. It's using the notes from that meeting to draft an email for me. And then I go in, I read it, and I tweak it to make sure it says what I want it to say and that it sounds like me. Now, I will say my AI has gotten much better at sounding like me, and we'll address that in just a minute. But can I just tell you the relief when you finish up a call and you've got this rating there and you can just send it? Like, I can't even properly express how great that feels. Okay, now we're going to talk about showing up consistently. Raise your hand if showing up on social media and all the places consistently is an issue for you. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of what it looks like, right? You need to post, you should email your list, but you're running a business. You don't have time to sit down to write something, or when you do, but it's 9 o'clock at night and the screen is blank and you are tired. So you don't post. And then a week goes by, and then a month, and then you whine, nobody knows what you do. And AI can help you fix this. It's not replacing your voice, but making sure you always have something to work with. And I'll get into a little bit more details in just a second. So this is the big question. But will it sound like me? Now, I don't know about you, but when I first started using ChatGPT, I was not impressed. I was like, okay, I have recipe books. I don't need to ask this fancy, browser for a chicken recipe. Um, and once I got into it, I started using it. I was like, oh, it's kind of humanish, Oh, it's kind of flattering. And then after a while, you're like, I don't know. It just still sounds, I felt like almost no matter what I did, it still sounded robotic. Now, last year, I did a webinar on creating your own custom GPT so that it would sound like you and put in research and all this stuff. And it was so much better because it had some context. So a lot of times when it doesn't sound like you, it sounds generic and off brand and sounds like a robot because it doesn't sound like anyone and everyone sounds the same. And so that's what they kind of call AI slop, whether it's an AI picture slop or text. We want it to sound like you. So an AI that is trained on your information, that has your voice, your stories, your clients, it's a memory system that's built from your writing and your frameworks, the language that you use. And so anything it drafts from that sounds more like you because it is coming from you. Now, I'm going to explain to you how this works in just a second. But think of it, AI drafts, you edit, and you publish. Or, better yet, you delegate it to an assistant, or if you're really fancy, an AI agent that'll post those things for you. So this keeps you and who you are and your center and your branding and your voice centered, but it saves you time and you don't have that blank screen at 9 p.m. So I thought I would chat a little bit about uh, different AIs. I don't want to get too far in the weeds about this, but if you've been using just a regular chat GPT, you might realize it doesn't have a great memory. It remembers some things, like if you put in enough stuff, like it can start to remember. But think of it this way. If you've ever worked with a kid, think a 5-year-old and you need them to do something. If you tell them too many things at once, they start forgetting. And an AI chat is like that. It only has so much bandwidth, the information that it can handle. I swear I get on the chat GPT sometimes and it will give me something. I'm like, I swear I haven't said that in a week. Or that was from 3 months ago. It's pulled from some random memory that it stored for me, but it thought it was important. So it doesn't sound like you. It's not really quite accurate. And here's the other thing too. A basic chat cannot take any kind of actions for you. Now, a chat with context, in this case, maybe chat projects. If you've ever used the project feature in chat, you can add documents. So you can add your brand voice and writing samples and client research, any of that kind of stuff you can put in that folder. And if you're working in that side of that folder, then it has some information. So does that sound like you? It's certainly getting there. The more you put into it, the more it'll sound like you and cannot take action. It cannot take action on your behalf. Now, on the far right is what we're calling AI agents or agentic AI. If you have heard of Claude, do me a favor. If you have heard of Claude, put a 1 in the chat for me. I love Claude. I know. Claude's my favorite. I joke Claude's my boyfriend. I know that's inappropriate. My husband doesn't like that joke. Okay. Give me a 2 if you have used Claude Cowork. Mary Golf used Claude Cowork. So Claude Cowork can do some things for you. Now, you can set things on a schedule. It can do a ton of things for you. Excellent. And okay, here's one. Give me a 3 if you used Claude Code. Do you have any other Claude coders here? Okay. Claude Code is fascinating and probably something you don't necessarily need to worry about at this point. But it can actually build automations for you. So things are really moving when it comes to AI. And the last thing I want is for AI to be yet another shiny object or yet another, time waster. And I will say I felt like that for a long time. Now I've been using Claude for a couple of months now, and I can't even tell you the difference that it has made in my business. And when it comes to having your AI sound like you, the difference isn't the tool so much, though I think I'm biased. Claude just writes better. Gemini is better for research, but Claude has a better writer. So it's whether you've given it a brain. So let me talk to you a little bit about what I call the second brain. So when you have something in Chat GPT, remember I said you could upload things like into projects? Well, I created a second brain. I did not invent this. I'm not that smart. I totally got this from somebody else way smarter than me that started doing this. But what I've created what I'm calling a second brain. It is just a file cabinet. It's just a file on my desktop. But inside that second brain is the context that Claude is using. So it doesn't have to guess. So here's some examples of some things that I have in there. First is context. It needs to know who I am, what I do, how I work. There are certain things. Do not give me M dashes, Claude. It still does, no matter what I do. There are certain words I just don't want it to use. And the other thing is that I'm giving it my goals. Like these are my 90-day goals. As I'm planning and doing things, always check against my goals. Is this going to get me closer to my goals or further away? A little bit of context goes a long way. This context has my frameworks, my Sprout and Scale frameworks of how I build systems. It has case studies and stories from clients and all of these things in there. Now, my second folder here, one of the things that you can have are skills. I'm not sure what the equivalent is for ChatGPT because honestly, I haven't been to ChatGPT a whole lot lately, though I am checking out Codex, their version of Claude Code soon. But here you can actually add marketing skills. Now, it sounds super high tech, but it is literally just a file. It's an SOP that tells the AI this is what I want you to do and how I want you to do it. And here's the great thing is you can update it. Like, so now when I use my marketing skill to help, me write something, if I have to correct it, I will tell it at the end, okay, take everything I told you and update the skill so I don't have to repeat myself. So it's fantastic. So other skills I have is morning briefing and meeting notes. So I can literally just put a transcript of a meeting note and it does its thing exactly how I want it to be. And daily notes sorting. So I'm going to talk about daily notes. This one is where you come in. So in this folder, I have, I talk to my computer because that's just faster than typing. Whisper Flow is my new favorite thing. And I will just talk about the things that so for example, I saw an incredible video the other day that had Seth Godin in it. Seth Godin makes me love marketing, even when marketing doesn't feel fun. He's just amazing. And in that video, he was talking about the word authentic. And he's like, your people don't want you to be authentic. They want you to be consistent. Well, I had to take that and put that in my notes because I have to think about that. And I think I want to talk about that. Maybe it'll be in an email, maybe it'll be in a post, maybe it won't. But I just brain dump into this daily notes. And then I have a skill that will go and sort it. And so it will move it into my marketing folder. If I'm brain dumping about a program I want to create, then it'll move it into the appropriate folder for me. And once I'm ready to sit down and do my marketing, I can go to my marketing raw folder and it pulls straight from that. It's not pulling from random places on the internet. It's pulling from that folder. And it just makes marketing so much easier. So what's great about this is you can have this structure and use it really with any AI. So remember, you're the human, AI is the amplifier. And before I open for Q&A, I also have a little thing. I'm actually doing a 90-minute on AI and all the stuff I just talked about, how to use AI, Claude in particular, but it would work for chat too. to get more clients and save time every week. And I'm saying it's the best $27 you'll spend this year. I'll give you your $27. Okay, now I'm going to open up for questions. And if I can stop sharing. Okay, Lori, question.
When you were, I have about a million questions, but I'll just ask one. When you were talking about you have a conversation and AI automatically gives you a draft of the first follow-up, are you using Claude Cowork to set up the rules for that so it knows how to do that?
Yeah, what's great about Claude Cowork, I explained it, Amber and I had a conversation this morning, and I think I put it this way. Um, Working with Claude Cowork is like collaborating to build your system. And so, yes, so I have a skill, like I have a skill to set up a new project, and I have a skill to do follow up after. And now I've actually got it automated. I used to have to copy and paste the transcript, but now I have it automated. That took a little time to sort out. But yeah, so
Okay.
question.
So it's a skill that
Mhm.
says, here's the parameters around how I want my response to look.
Exactly.
And it's using that
Exactly.
skill, giving you the draft, then you edit it.
Yeah, so it gives me, I have it specifically, so it gives me, a summary, and I want it to break out, things that I need to do versus the other person on the call, what they need to do.
Oh,
And
got it.
so
Okay.
it does meeting notes, and then it drafts the email for me. And so now I can just go in and check it and send it. Hillary.
So do you have this all integrated into your system? Like it's doing all of
Yes.
that through and triggered through. Are you using like Fathom or any sort of meeting
Yeah.
recorder that feeds into
Yeah, so
PDF?
I was using Fathom, and Fathom, their API is spotty, so it doesn't work great. So I actually just switched to Granola, and it has a direct connection inside of Cowork. So it was super easy.
What was that called?
Granola,
Oh, granola.
yeah, yeah, Granola AI. It's running right now. It's recording everything, and then it gives me notes. Kirby, do you have something?
So Beth asked for the link to your workshop.
Oh, sure.
And is Claude Cowork like hard to set up? I feel like I
Um,
need this, but I am no
well,
techie, as you know.
I hear you. I have not told anybody this yet, but I'm actually going to do. Actually, I think I told Mary. I'm actually going to do a sprint. I think I'm going to do one in June, July, and August. That's 4 sessions to set up a second brain. So if you're interested, let me
Yeah.
know. But I haven't even put it together yet. So
Does
it's
that
it's
include
coming along.
integrations?
I'm sorry, what?
Does that include the integrations to like connect it to all the things or just to set up the structure and all
Yeah, so we're going to set, we would get, so it's not going to be Claude Code. That's a whole other piece, but we will get Claude and Claude Cowork set up so you can add your skills. You can set up, I have what's called a live artifact. It's literally my Sproutware HQ dashboard. It runs for me every morning, and it pulls in my emails. It pulls in everything from Asana. It pulls in, I actually have it set up so it's connected to Sproutware. So it actually pulls, I actually have it pulling 8 people a day now, and people for me to reach out to and connect with. It's when I connect with them, it will go back and put a note in their contact record. So, I mean, it's blowing my mind, people. It is
Mhm.
so good. Okay, thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. We love putting these kind of things on. I hope you got lots of value.